What's going on, you guys? My name's Ty Knotts, and welcome to Top 5 Unknowns. 5 mysterious graveyard finds. Number 5. The infamous story of the Titanic is one that needs no introduction. The Titanic was the largest passenger ship of its time, deemed to be unsinkable by its building crew. However, one fateful night in 1912, the ship struck an iceberg, tearing a hole in the sidewalls and forcing passengers to abandon ship or drown. And sadly, over 1,500 people did drown due to improper safety regulations. Among the wreckage of the ship, rescuers found the body of the ship's youngest passenger, a small baby boy. His body, however, went unclaimed, with him later being buried in Canada with the grave marker simply reading "Unknown Boy." For a while, he was believed to have likely been a 2-year-old boy named Gösta Palston, who witnesses recall seeing getting washed overboard during the disaster. However, his body was far too small to have actually been a 2-year-old. The Palston family eventually decided to allow the boy's supposed body to be exhumed in 2001, but by this time, only a small piece of arm bone and teeth remained. His body was simply far too degraded. Though even with this discovery, these few bones were enough to definitively say that this was not the body of Gösta Palston. In 2004, the body was misidentified once more, this time being described as belonging to a 9 to 15-month-old named Eno Panula. Though once again this proved to be false. It took investigators over 7 years of research to finally give this child a proper name. Investigators began looking at a set of boots that belonged to Eno, and found that they were far too large. The only remaining passenger of the boat that this could have belonged to would have been Sidney Goodwin. DNA evidence was then used to confirm this belief, with it being found that the boy had been traveling third class and his entire family had passed away in the disaster, explaining why his body has never been claimed. Number 4. Just outside of Johannesburg, South Africa, over 650 unidentified human bodies were found while a group of miners were preparing to search for gold. A group of security guards managed to make the discovery after they noticed a small piece of bone jutting through the surface of the ground. Not a single one of the bodies were found to have been buried in a coffin, and no records showed that a cemetery ever existed there. By all intents and purposes, this appears to be some sort of ancient mass grave. And not only that, but it would have been one of the largest grave sites to have ever been found from this time period. Dating all the way back to the turn of the century, the grave was determined to have only contained male bodies, each of them ranging from age 18 to 25. They were each found to have been wrapped in either cowhide, canvas, or blankets. No one is entirely sure how this gravesite simply vanished from records, and no documents or locals have ever been found to have shed light on this mystery of the burial site. Archaeologists are unable to find a single tombstone, with researchers believing that their best hope in finding answers will be to uncover the basic details of each body, determine their race and where they came from, and piece the story together from there. At the moment, the most probable assumption is that they were likely miner workers, most of whom are expected to be black or Chinese, and likely met with a terrible fate during a mining incident. But this is simply conjecture. The true origins of these 650 bodies remains unknown. Thomas Curry had a short and largely tragic life and upbringing. When he was only 7 years old, his father, also named Thomas, shot himself and the young boy's mother. Then, by 1925, Thomas himself had also passed away under mysterious and mostly undetermined circumstances, with them being found after he was allegedly seen running for his life from a reform school, which was largely regarded as abusive. The Dozier School for Boys, which we've touched on in a previous video, officially closed down in 2011, after literal hundreds of grown men came out with horror stories of their time there, involving torture, murder, sexual exploitation, and tales of friends who mysteriously vanished and were never seen again. Thomas Curry had been one of those boys. Having only attended the school for a month, he became one of the 96 students to die under the supposed care of the school. By 2013, investigators unearthed an additional 55 bodies from a makeshift grave, located just a short distance away from the school. It was then determined that at least 9 other children had died while seeming to be running away from the school, and they were each found with gunshot wounds or blunt force trauma to vital organs. Thomas's body was one of several that were exhumed. Investigators wanted to determine his precise cause of death, so they unearthed his coffin, which had been buried without a tombstone. It was then found that his body wasn't even in there. The school had shipped the boy's parents a coffin full of wood for burial. To this day, Thomas's body has never been found. In late 2017, the state officially recognized the wrongs of the school and hosted a public ceremony as an apology for survivors who live on to this day. By 2018, a few bills had been put into motion to provide monetary compensation to these survivors, with much of this presumably being given to direct descendants of the survivors in the form of scholarships. By early 2019, work was continuing to be done on the school grounds, and yet another 27 bodies were found with ground-penetrating radar. It's been proposed that the state should simply send out a rescue crew to account for every single missing body and to not stop until every missing child is accounted for. But at the moment, there exist no plans to do this. Number 2. In Abydos, one of Egypt's most popularized ancient locations, archaeologists made a rather odd discovery when they unearthed 5 dogs who'd been preserved in pots. This was something that had never before been seen, even though the country is well known for its respectful animal burials. 2 of the dogs, which are believed to be over 3,000 years old, baffled investigators due to their mummification of the bodies. Due to the sheer amount of time it takes to mummify a body, oftentimes flexibility becomes compromised, and bodies would typically have to be broken to fit into certain containers, such as pots. However, at least 2 of these dogs were found to have been fully intact. Not one of them had been damaged, and they were each curled up into the bottom of the pot as if they'd been placed there with great care and precision. No one is entirely sure how the Egyptians did this, and it's possible that they could have been using some sort of mummification technique that we've yet to discover. In fact, researchers are not even fully convinced that the animals are truly dogs. But this is the closest species that they could agree on, though this seems like a strange discussion, as it would be fairly simple to determine their species with a hair or skin sample. The dogs were not found to have been bandaged, as a typical mummy would have been, and they show unusually long coats for their size. To this day, the dogs remain a mystery, and it seems unlikely we'll get any sort of definitive answer about their mummification process or species or breed very soon. Number 1. Miguel Cervantes passed away in 1616 and is said to be the world's first best-selling author. He's known for having been a war veteran, a poet, and the creator of the popular fictional character Don Quixote. However, despite Don Quixote being such a timeless and well-known character, Miguel hardly made any money off of the book, as publishing royalties didn't really exist back then. Miguel passed away in such poverty that he was not even given a tombstone for his burial site, and just 60 years after his burial, no one remembered where his body was even placed. His grave site remained unknown for the next nearly 400 years, though in 2014, Spanish investigators managed to locate his body using radar. They began to excavate the grave site and found a single grave located underneath the ground. It took them several months of precise digging, but when they finally did reach the bottom, they found the mixed remains of at least 16 different skeletons. However, one of the most promising clues that they were in the right place was a small wooden box with MC written on top of it that contained additional bones. Researchers used this box as evidence alongside historical documentation to claim that they've solved the mystery of Miguel Cervantes' burial. However, a 100% confirmation of this would be nearly impossible, as DNA would have been heavily degraded over this length of time. Since its discovery, it was announced that his gravesite was being moved to a different area of the same location, with him being given full honors and a proper burial marker. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to click that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep updated with our videos.